This is a binder clip, also known as the most versatile household multitasker, according to lifehacker.com. Did you know that these clips can be used for dozens of tasks, from stacking beverages to building phone car mounts? In fact, I could spend the next 15 minutes just talking about all of the creative things you can do with them. However, this would perhaps be the last time I'm invited to this conference, or to any conference for that matter. So instead, I'll talk about building products with the most versatile multitaskers of the NLP world, the language transformers. My name is Vera Serdiukova, and I've been building NLP-enabled products since 2013. I have seen language transformers revolutionize product experiences, as well as companies go bankrupt in a blind pursuit of the shiny new models. So today, I'll share my thoughts on the business considerations for building viable products with transformer language models. Transformers are a vast topic, but we only have 15 minutes. So today, we'll focus on three aspects. What is the buzz about? The business of language transformers, and training transformers in your product. By the end of this presentation, you will know how to make transformers work for your product and avoid common pitfalls. With that, let's get started. As a kid, I loved reading about dinosaurs. These magnificent creatures that reigned planet Earth for over 160 million years were just mesmerizing. However, to my utter disappointment, pretty much every dinosaur book featured an image similar to this one. An asteroid hitting planet Earth and obliterating the world of dinosaurs. In the NLP, natural language processing world, an event of arguably similar magnitude happened in December 2017, when a group of Google researchers effectively introduced the notion of the transformer model. Now, fast forward 4 years. Has anybody recently used Gmail and its Smart Compose feature? The one that makes suggestions on the next thing to say? Yes? You've used transformers. Heard about AI writing plays and generating code? Those are also transformers. Now, what exactly are transformers? In a loose industry sense, transformers are a super family of self-attention-based deep learning model architectures. This is the Hugging Face definition. Essentially, these are a special type of deep learning models that are typically pre-trained on huge amounts of raw unlabeled text data, such as, for example, the entirety of script Wikipedia, and later fine-tuned for a specific task, for instance, to generate a text, meaning that eventually a single pre-trained model can be used for many different tasks, for example, from writing a play to translating and summarizing it. Now, why did transformers generate an inflection point in the NLP industry and beyond? One is the parallelization ability they achieve by leveraging GPUs, and thus time efficiency for large-scale training and pre-training. Thus, two, their capacity to learn from massive data sets. And three, these qualities appear to be useful for achieving state-of-the-art results in particularly difficult language tasks, such as question answering, text summarization, and machine translation, to name a few. Okay, now that we have discussed the revolution transformers have ignited, let's get to more pragmatic commercial aspects of these language models. Every time I travel to a new destination, I buy a travel guide. Why? Well, frankly speaking, I find that nothing beats them in helping me quickly identify things that are unique to a new place. So with that, slightly cheesy intro, let me share a brief travel guide to the business of language transformers with you. Say you're building a product you expect to be powered by a language transformer. And to be fair, these days, given that transformers achieve state-of-the-art results for pretty much any language task, it's very likely that you'll at least consider them. Similar to the other deep learning models, you'll have a few options on how to obtain a transformer and consequently the impact this decision will have on your business model. Namely, you can get an open source transformer, pre-train, train a proprietary one, or rent one from a specialized vendor. Or do something in between, such as modifying an open source model or tuning a commercially available one. So the question is, what is different about transformers? Just like with any machine learning-based product, the key resources to consider include data and compute infrastructure. The difference comes in magnitude. Of course, transformers are a diverse category, and I don't want to generalize for them all. However, TLDR, modern language transformers tend to be large and compute intensive. Let me share stats for a couple of the more recent well-known models, GPT-3 and Megatron-Turing NLG. For example, for training, GPT-3 required 45 terabytes of text data, not video or image, 45 terabytes of text data. That's quite a bit. And the training budget is estimated between $11 and $16 million for GPT-3 and at $100 million for Megatron-Turing NLG. And this is just training. In other words, data and infrastructure create an entry barrier to be reckoned with. That said, the subscription option might sound quite palatable. These days, we're used to the fact that machine learning model as a service is something available at pretty much any public cloud provider in dozens, if not hundreds of startups. By contrast, language transformer as a service is an extremely new niche that started coalescing in the second half of 2021. And therefore, your options are going to be rather limited. A few early entrants, pioneers in the space, are companies such as, for example, Cohere, AI21 Labs, and of course, OpenAI. All right, the bottom line is that I'm not going to pretend that the business of transformers runs by completely new laws. However, what does set it apart is, one, the magnitude of resources required, and consequently, the sparsity of players and vendors in particular on the market. The combination of these factors is poised to set rather high entry barriers for the companies looking to adopt language transformers and put language transformer providers, both the open source and commercial ones, in a pretty powerful position. Okay, we have discussed why transformers are such a big deal, as well as some of the business considerations they entail. Now let's talk what it actually takes to build a product with language transformers. By failing to prepare, you're preparing to fail. I love this quote by Benjamin Franklin that emphasizes the importance of preparation as a prerequisite for success. So, as we'll be discussing how to build successful products with language transformers, I will not try to sell you some magic instant formula. Instead, I'll help you prepare for different possibilities. Now, let's go back to our options. The first one is getting an open source language transformer. In fact, it's a good starting point for any project that will provide a valuable benchmark. If the original model happens to satisfy your needs, it can be an incredible time and budget saver. a couple of things to be mindful of. One is the availability and management of the serving infrastructure and the cost associated. And two, you won't have any control over the training data. Beyond the humongous size of it, even if the training data sets are open source, it is just humanly impossible to thoroughly audit them. As a result, the outputs of your models and consequently product might be unpredictable and in some cases just awfully biased. For instance, in this case, I've used the open source GPT-J model and entered an innocuous prompt. 2 Muslim men entered. And as you can see, the system produced a horrifying piece about the men perpetrating a terrorist attack. This is bad. As you can imagine, potential consequences of such outputs can range anywhere from reputation loss to legal liability for your company. All right, let's take a look at the next option. Modifying an open source pre-trained transformer by training it on a domain-specific data set and or prompt engineering. This seems to be the most common approach these days. On the one hand, it can save millions in development costs, yet it can also provide a somewhat tailored solution. Of course, in order to enable this domain adaptation, you would need to provide custom data. The cost of such data acquisition, model refinement, and experimentation are a few things you would want to budget in here. The next alternative is building a transformer in-house from scratch. And it might sound like a compelling proposition that would allow you to create differentiated technology and thus potentially a competitive advantage over the products relying on off-the-shelf models. It might also enable you to curate the quality and robustness of the model, for example, by minimizing biases in the training data set or optimizing the model for the target job and infrastructure. The trade-offs include costs, financial and lead time we have discussed already, as well as the environmental ones I'll dwell on. As you can see, the carbon footprint of training a modern transformer can exceed that of a human lifetime. Again, pre-training a model versus human lifetime. Of course, there are a plethora of different methodologies for estimating carbon footprint, as well as a number of variables ranging from the efficiency of the data center to the extent of experimentation. However, generally, pre-training large language models has a hefty environmental price tag. Moving on, the subscription option. In many ways, it is similar to the open source one. Additionally, infrastructure is conveniently taken care of. It can also be a bit of a cat in the sack, where the underlying transformer and data might be hidden behind the API wall. An important consideration to call out here is that you might be fully dependent on the transformer vendor for model upkeep, such as addressing data and concept drift, as well as signals on performance issues. Say you're using a commercially available language transformer that was trained in early 2019. Now, it will not have knowledge of notions such as COVID-19, Zoom fatigue, or virtual happy hours. And while all of us might be dreaming of a world where we would not know what COVID and Zoom fatigue are, the reality is that gaps like this one can significantly undermine the robustness and credibility of your product. Last but not the least, tuning a commercially available language transformer. This is an extremely new offering that started emerging just over the past few months, very, very recently. Here, you would be able to go beyond prompt engineering and fine-tune the model on your proprietary data. A few aspects you would want to assess here. Training data residency that might be sensitive from the legal perspective, as well as knobs and visibility into the tuning process. All right, we've come a long way. We have discussed why transformers are a big deal in the NLP industry, how they're positioned commercially, as well as the considerations for building viable products with them. Language transformers are a diverse and rapidly developing group. They are the versatile multitaskers of the NLP industry. And one thing I'm quite certain about, they have revolutionized the industry already, but they can also propel your NLP products to success. Thank you.